Welcome back to The Lead in national news. New developments to report today on those controversial NSA surveillance programs. Sources tell CNN that President Obama is inviting some of the country's most prominent tech gurus to the White House tomorrow for their input, as well as discussions about healthcare.gov. Invitees include Tim Cook of Apple, Eric Schmidt of Google, Marissa Mayer of Yahoo, Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, as well as many, many others. Many of them have expressed serious concern about the scope of these programs. But what was so interesting in the aftermath of those U.S. intelligence leaks from former NSA contractor Edward Snowden is that in the months since they began, nothing really changed. Snowden revealed a massive web that collects data on citizens throughout the world, and the response from President Obama, many prominent lawmakers on both sides, and it must be said, many of the Americans in the public was a shrug. But today we may have seen the first real blow to the NSA's massive reach. A federal judge ruled that the program that collects information on calls to, from, or inside the U.S. probably violates the constitutional ban on unreasonable searches. That doesn't mean that the program stops today. The judge also put a hold on the decision to allow for a government appeal. And in the long run, the ruling may apply only to the plaintiffs who originally brought the case. Still, I want to get into this with CNN senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin and Ben Weisner, director of the American Civil Liberties Union's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Jeff, I'll start with you. The judge has ruled the plaintiff is likely to succeed in raising a constitutional challenge to the NSA methods of collecting phone records. What exactly does that mean? Would that stop what the NSA is doing anytime soon?
No. This is a narrow ruling. It applies only to the two people who actually brought the case. The judge's opinion says, one, stop collecting data on these two people, and two, I'm going to put this whole issue on hold until an appeals court decides it. So nothing changes today, except the legal landscape does really look different, because now for the first time someone has said what the NSA is doing is illegal, and that's both politically and legally significant.
Ben, I want to read part of the judge's opinion. Frankly, it reads like it could be have been written by you to a degree. The government wants it both ways. Virtually all of the government's briefs and arguments to this court explain how the government acted in good faith to create a comprehensive metadata database that serves as a potentially valuable tool in combating terrorism. Yet, the government asks me to find that plaintiffs lack standing based on the theoretical possibility that the NSA has collected a universe of metadata so incomplete that the program could not possibly serve its putative function. Candor of this type defies common sense and does not exactly inspire confidence, unquote. So, by the way, that's his exclamation point, not ours. This is a judge George W. Bush appointed. Were you surprised at all by this ruling, Ben?
No, not at all. I think this is what happens when important legal issues are decided in open courts, where both sides get to make legal arguments, rather than in secret courts, where the government alone gets to present arguments to a court. This is, I think, a good day for Edward Snowden. This is what he had in mind. He saw programs, he doubted their legality, he saw that the oversight mechanisms had failed, that secret courts had become a rubber stamp, that congressional committees had been enabling rather than actually exercising oversight. And so he brought the information to the public through journalists, and he brought it to the lawyers who brought this case. And today is a real vindication. Look, it may be a narrow ruling today, but it's a watershed moment, because what this judge is saying, this conservative federal judge, is saying that the main program that the NSA is defending, the first revelation of Snowden's, likely violates the Fourth Amendment, because the NSA is collecting information in case someone does something wrong, rather than determining that someone does something wrong before collecting information. This is a big deal.
A violation of illegal search and seizure. Jeff, in July, a U.S. official told CNN that Snowden did not access the, quote, crown jewels of the NSA's programs. But on 60 Minutes last night, an NSA official claimed that Snowden took the keys to the kingdom. So which is it?
Well, I think the only clear answer is we don't know for sure. Because of Snowden's deviousness and the NSA's incompetence, to this day, I don't think anyone knows for sure what Snowden took. And certainly we don't know what the Chinese and the Russians have gotten out of this, since that's where he was, in Hong Kong and now in Russia. That's what makes this situation so difficult to remedy, because it's not clear what's out there. But certainly, as tomorrow's meeting illustrates, the president may be interested in making some changes, both for legal and political reasons, that the status quo is just not working.
Ben, you know that all these tech executives we reported just a few minutes ago are meeting with President Obama to talk about healthcare.gov, but also to talk about NSA. A lot of these tech groups very, very upset with the government, very upset with what the government's been making them do. What do you anticipate might come out of the meeting tomorrow, having spoken to a lot of these tech groups, the ACLU, speaking with these firms?
Sure. Well, I think this is important, and this follows an open letter that the major technology companies took out in the biggest U.S. newspapers last week, saying that the NSA's dragnet surveillance practices, they're collected all now, hope that the authority follows, and maybe it'll be relevant someday, practices are not just bad for civil liberties, but are actually bad for their business, are jeopardizing their global businesses and hurting our economy. Look, I think that adding their voices to the chorus of groups and individuals who are calling for reform could be critical and might even be decisive. You know, I want to say, just to respond quickly to Jeff, today he's calling Snowden devious before he denied that he was a whistleblower because he said that he hadn't exposed any illegality. You know, today a federal judge disagreed. You know, I think that it's premature for people to say months ago that Snowden had not exposed illegal programs when until today we hadn't had a real court with a real adversarial process weigh in on whether that was the case.
All right, Ben, we'll let you have the last word, and Jeffrey, I know we'll have you back soon, perhaps with Mr. Weissman, to debate this issue. Edward Snowden's not going anywhere anytime soon. Thanks so much to both of you.